oriented science education. We like to stress always that this SIG means, and this title means that we are not actually thinking about the future of science education, but the aim and the goal of our work within this special interest group is instead try to infuse the future studies into science education. So we typically use this word, futurizing science, to think about how to highlight, how to stress the future and the future is inside in order to promote what we call futures literacy. So of futures, because futures literacy means the idea to try to educate and to promote a vision of the future that is not a one future, it's a plurality of futures, and to open the imagination toward this plurality of the futures in order to act in the present also with this plurality, with this plural images of the future. So our goal is to discuss together, to try to imagine what does it mean to reconsider and to revalue science education in order to futurize our research and to futurize science in order to change and to innovate science education. We also, yes, this is also a very specific characterization. It's a very specific point that for us is important, because in order to futurize science education, we need to think, first of all, of how to futurize science, how to discuss about the foundations of science, in the assumptions of science, in the images of science, and to search in science what are the images of the futures in order to change also our education. This is the very, very basic idea of our SIG that we always try to express and to share with all the members and in this kind of collective discussion. This is for the newcomers. This is also another important aspect of this special interest group, because as all the other special interest group in ESERA, there are coordinators. In this case, I have the honor, I'm Olivia Livrini from the University of Bologna, Italy, and I have the honor to share and to co-coordinate this SIG with Mauricio Pietrocola from the University of São Paulo in Brazil. But in this special interest group, actually, we have also an advisory board. This is a novelty in ESERA, and these are the people who are part of the advisory board: Laura Branchetti from Milan, Sibelle Duran from Oxford, Shulamit Kapon from Israel, Antti Laerto from Helsinki, and Won-Young Park from Southampton. And actually, we are really working together in order to create the space of discussion within ESERA. Today, the agenda of today is this one, as we already shared it to you. The first part is just to update you about the current state of the manifesto. That manifesto is actually supposed to be the main outcome of the first 4 years of this special interest group. The second part is focused on a book that this is a project and a book where Manifesto will be part of. So we will discuss, we will want to involve you in this collective writing. There are chapters that are open, and we would love to invite you to think if you wish to contribute to this book as another outcome of this collective discussion within the special interest group. And then the last part is just to inform you about the next step and to try to collectively to be aligned in order to finalize the manifesto and the book. The manifesto. The manifesto, we sent you the current state of the manifesto. This is a document that really is the current state is already a sort of outcome of a process. Many of you already have participated in this collective work. The state of our document is actually the result of a 1 hour and a half to work. It started in October 2024 with an inspirational talk by Silvio Funtovic. That talk was very important for us because it was the first collective and shared moment, and it was very important to point out some priorities, 4 priorities on which we started to build the core statements of our manifesto. Indeed, that was done in a following up online meeting that led to, as the people who already participate in the SIG already know, these are our 4 main priorities. These are themes. They are themes. They are tensions that emerged from the first inspiring talk. Can you hear me? Yeah. They are tensions that strongly touch the heart of science and of science teaching, and they are foundational aspects of how we teach, how we think of science, and that they are strictly related to the idea of futurizing science education. When we think about future and futurizing science education, this is what we assumed. You need to address these epistemological, ontological, and also axiological tensions. Problem solving, problem framing, certainties, uncertainties, matter of fact and matter of concern, truth, fitness to purposes. They are tensions. Also, the form of the tension is something that we decided collectively. We shared. It is very important because innovation is not to move from one idea of science only focused on problem solving, certainties, facts, and truth, but to open a space for a dialogical aspect, for a dialogical dimension, a dialogical perspective, and to work and to stay within these tensions. So these were themes that emerged very, very, very at the beginning of our collective discussion, and that they still represent the core themes of our collective work and our manifesto. Indeed, in following the individuation of these tensions, we made a conference, organized a conference here in Bologna where these themes and these tensions were discussed, and the first draft of the manifesto was deeply analyzed and then enriched with other inspirational talk. And many of you already participated in the ESERA conference activities last summer, where we deeply discussed the second draft of the manifesto in the pre-conference workshop, and also then we presented the result of our work in the final symposium in ESERA. So this was the process that led to us to the document that also you saw. I hope you received through our invitation. However, probably you noticed that in the current state of the manifesto, the document that we just sent to you, there are some changes, deep and structural changes. You can still find the 4 statements about the tensions as the main part of the manifesto. So, but actually, you could find that if you read the document, you usually have noticed that there are also two new statements that we labeled A and B because they are different from the statements on the tensions that we already discussed together. There are two new statements, and that actually we found important to add in order to frame our four statements on detention. We felt the need to switch on explicitly a political dimension and a pedagogical dimension about futurizing science education. So in this moment, the structure of the manifesto has two initial statements that are much more political and pedagogical, and four statements, the original one, that instead deal with the concern, the foundational, epistemological, ontological, and axiological assumption of science that are important to sustain futures-oriented science education. So this is the current structure. This was just to stress and to introduce you this novelty. And this is also due to the fact that actually we discussed in our group with among the coordinators and the advisory board, we had a very important discussion about the idea per se of manifesto. This is something we would love to stop now in a moment, because the choice of working together within ESERA on a manifesto is not a neutral choice. It's it's an important choice, because manifesto is probably a new approach to collectively discuss about our research field. Actually, manifesto comes, as always Sibel stresses, comes from a political discourse. Manifesto means, to build a manifesto means to start from an analysis of the status quo, of what is the status of in our field. That means the status of science education, but also the research in science education, and to analyze it but from a particular analytical perspective, the perspective of trying to lay the foundations for a new perspective of direction that can lead to actions and to change in science education research. So to pursue the goal to develop together a manifesto means also to discuss deeply in a collective way about the values, the assumptions, the principles that are at the basis of our job, our field, the science education research, and also to try to build a roadmap and actions. In our case, of course, we made the choice to use the futures literacy as the angle to activate this critical analysis of the status quo, and to think about how science education, and in particular science education research, can be a driver for social innovation. This is rather important. So this is the choice. This is an important choice that, in some sense, guided us to introduce and to add these two new statements. The first one is much more political, that was oriented to analyze also the possible transformative potential that future literacy can have in order to shake the status quo, and to add a statement B in order to be much more practically oriented and to keep together the idea of political analysis and actions together. I would love to stop in a moment here, because I would love to open a little bit of discussion about this point, because the concept of the manifesto is not obvious. The approach of the manifesto is not obvious, and we think it is nice to stop a little bit and to share this. Did you do you have some reasonings about this? Did you have some thoughts that you want to share about this approach of a manifesto, this idea of the manifesto? Because it's not obvious, actually. Is there someone who wants to comment and to make a comment on this?
Shall I just say something, Olivia, just to kind of kickstart the conversation? Because always,
Yes.
it's always a challenging one to sort of jump in. I mean, and you would have heard me saying this before, but the word manifesto itself is a political term. I mean, what is a manifesto? Usually, political parties in actual, national context, they develop a manifesto before elections. And the whole idea is to challenge the status quo, and then to have this roadmap to challenge the status quo, and to, I mean, especially if it's an opposition party, to open up another narrative around what should be the future of this, country. Right. So it has a certain political connotation in that sense, and the terminology itself. Anyway, I'm just dropping that in case someone wants to sort of jump in and talk about the term and kind of the context of the term itself.
Thank you.
Building on what Sibel said, I think just using the term introduces a shock experience to the person hearing and gets their attention. Otherwise, it's just one more thing that we're talking about. So it distinguishes it in that sense. And I think it's a good kind of shock to have, to get attention and engage the person or the community.
Thank you, Zubeida. It's a sort of shock that was supposed to try to put the attention also to the moment to stop and to think about our foundations and our basic assumption of our work, in order to try to imagine what kind of futures we imagine, and to create a collective discussion, to create a collective conversation, in order to share desires, to share images, to share some orientations. So that was exactly the sense of the shock. That was.
And for me, another aspect is that it's not only about sharing, but also for challenging the science as we have been imagining for the past 200 or more years. So I think the manifesto is a very, very appropriate way for positioning ourselves in order to state some belief on what science should be, and how can we deal with science for the next generations and centuries.
Yeah. And positioning, another key word, and positioning, yes.
It also brings to mind the founding manifestos of certain artistic movements, yeah. But at the same time, the Einstein-Russell manifesto. So something that is foundational in nature, yet also socially engaged. That is quite important especially in this moment.
Thank you very much. Yes. Well, thank you. So, and I share again this one. So in some sense, that was exactly also the point. It was not another outcome, another object, something, another stuff, but actually within this special interest group, the idea was also to use this or to open this also from a methodological point of view. So Manifesto is not only an outcome, but it is also, in our idea, a sort of methodological approach to address an issue in order to keep together all these dimensions that you already have mentioned. And from this point of view, and this is also something we stressed all the time, also during the final, the symposium in ESERA, about we are trying to create this space where we can jointly interpret questioning the contemporary challenges and to try to orient our new directions for actions, but in a very in a positioning ourselves and also keeping together all the dimensions that are involved in our job. So this is really the sense we are trying to give it. We are trying to give to this special interest group, and this is what is at the basis of also this current structure of the manifesto. And it was another way to stress why we felt the need to add 2 statements. So we would love you, the people who are interested in taking part, to read the whole structure in order to see the links among the different dimensions that are involved, and also to try to see this this multi-dimensional structure, and from a conceptual point of view, but also from a methodological point of view. So just I don't want to waste time and to go over my time, but just to comment that the current version of the manifesto has been also produced in order to we embed. We made we hope a careful work to embed all the comments and suggestions that the participants in the pre-conference workshop gave to the second draft of the manifesto, and this led us to make local changes and local suggestions to clarify the statements and the recommendations in the 4 statements. We tried to disentangle the 4 different statements. There were a lot of suggestions to disentangle the different, the various statements. Also, there was a suggestion of changing the order of the statements, and also this is something that it arrived from the pre-conference workshop in ESERA, to try to frame the priorities in a more clearer framework about future-oriented science education. So this is what we have now. There are statement 1, that is the political one, that was to argue why to move from a single future to multiple future to linear time to a plural temporalities has social, political, economical implications. There is statement B, that is instead it is based on the current analysis of the research in science education research, in order to provide some direction to put in practice future thinking. And then the 4 statements that now, in the last version of the manifesto, you find in a different order. We just change completely the order, starting from the statements about truth, fitness to purpose, and then matter of fact and matter of concern, certainty, uncertainty, problem solving and problem framing, moving from more and more political nuanced statements to a more practical one, trying to build this multidimensional argument, moving from the much more issue about rationality, what is the truth, the rationality, moving to the much more the nuance about ethics, the ethical dimension of science, that through future-oriented science education can be stressed, matter of facts and matter of concern. Here, the nuance is the ethic and the values, moving instead to certainties and uncertainty. That is a very complicated tension, because it touches epistemological, ontological, and the axiological issue, but also emotional aspects, certain moving until the last statement that is going more to the classroom practices and much more oriented. So this is the new reframe, the new order of the statements that we suggest now as a sort of our interpretation of your comments and suggestion during the during the pre-conference workshop. We already sent you the last version. This you can also download it here, and it is still an open document. So as we will describe in the last part of this meeting, we will organize other activities in order to discuss it and to try to change it and to keep it open to for our discussion. Now, I don't know if you have comments or questions about this part of the manifesto, because otherwise I leave the floor to Mauricio, who will present you the book. But do you have questions, comments on this part, on the new structure of the manifesto? Is it rather clear, the sense of the changes that we introduced? Okay. So maybe Mauricio, so I can give you the stage. You can.
Okay, Olivia, you can keep it sharing.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, to come here. I hope you can hear me clearly. The idea is just to present a little bit the structure of the book. It's important to say that we have we have sent the proposition to the ESERA commission about ESERA books, and it is in the process of evaluation. But we are very positive in the sense that we imagine that the book, the proposition will receive a positive comments and evaluation. And we have also made a meeting with the person that was in charge of publishing books at the Springer. It means that the idea is to publish the book in the ESERA series at Springers. It was a little bit important to make this meeting with Claudia Ocuna. This is the person in charge of books in Spring. And she is dealing with ESERA book series, and to explain what was the proposition about our book, because it's a little bit different from the regular books that they normally receive, and why we have chosen the manifesto and all of this. It's in fact anticipated a problem that if you just send the proposition, maybe we are not understanding that it was a collective production that has three parts. Okay, it was important to say that it's not a regular book because the idea of a manifesto make the books a little bit different. Okay, the book we will start with first. Okay, we have the preface and the normal presentation of the book that was normally that we have done in other books, and we imagine that we take just 5 pages. And in this preface and introduction, we explain a little bit how the book was conceived. It's an outcome of the ESERA SIG8 community. Why false? Why the main subject, as Olivia had explained. Okay, but the first part is the manifesto itself. It means that all the things that we have, you have received in this version, the preliminary version, is the part 1 of the book. And it's about 15 pages, and we hope, we are trying the maximum to this part of the book will be in open access. It means that it was just one chapter, but with 15 pages. The name chapter is not really, the manifesto is not a chapter, but for the practical purpose of the publishing, it's like a chapter. And in this chapter we have an introduction, why a manifesto, like Olivia have explained, the process that led to its production and the structure of the manifesto itself. Okay, you can. Okay, and the statements that Olivia have presented that was already done. It means that we can receive comments and other contributions until now, but the idea is to present the two dimensions of the statement on the political and pedagogical, A and B, single and multiple futures. It means that the political aspect of the discussion, and the part B, statement B, futurizing science education. Okay, and the other four is more ontological, epistemo-axiological dimension. It was really the four outcomes that we have produced from the first inspirational talk, from the activities that we have done in Bologna, and the contributions that we have received in the pre-conference at the ESERA conference. Okay. The idea is that we have in all this package the manifesto itself with 15 pages, and we will try to use the resources that maybe we have in the SIG8 ESERA group to support this open access book. Okay, the part two, it's a kind of detailment or an explanations, commentaries about the manifestos itself. It means that the idea is in this series of 6 chapters, the idea is to grasp, to go a little bit deeper in the discussion about why the priorities and the requirements. The idea is to try to justify and make comments about this. And the idea is that we have one chapter for one of these statements, starting with the chapter 2, brief history of the future studies and the foundations of the future literacy. It means that we can use the kind of research that all have been done connected with the future studies and the future literacy, to show how important is this kind of discussion that we are bringing in the manifesto. The chapter was in charge of Olivia, and it will be about 10 pages per chapters. It means that we have about 70 pages in the total. Okay, maybe one chapter could be a little bit more than 10 pages, and for that reason that the match is not completely exactly, but we imagine that 70 pages. Okay, the chapter 3, remember the chapter 1 is the manifesto itself. For that reason, the part 2 we start in chapter 2. Chapter 3 is the state of art of future-oriented science education. It's more about what we have now, this more actual, the more that was published, and about the future-oriented science education. And the idea is that Antti Laerto, that was someone that was very imbibed and connected with this kind of discussion, could be the leader of this chapter. Okay, chapter 4 starting falling. The chapters, and sorry, I put the wrong order, because Olivia had explained that we have changed. In fact, the chapter 4 is in fact the chapter 7. It means that true fitness to propose that is connected with the statement statement 1. It was Sibyl Erdogan from the University of Oxford that will be in charge of this chapter. The chapter 4 it will be matter of fact and matter of concern. Laura Branchetti from the University of Milano. Certainties and uncertainties. It's about it. It's the statement 3. Olivia and Lorenzo, and finally, problem solving, problem framing is the last statement, and it was about me, Mauricio, from the University of São Paulo. It means that the idea is a kind of, the part 2 is a kind of mirror of the statements of the part 1, but in a deeply discussion. Okay, and this is maybe the core, core of the theoretical or the foundational arguments that support the manifesto. Olivia, can you? Yes. Okay. I think the part 3. I will just make a very quickly comments because I think one long part we will explain a little bit more, but this is the more practical aspect of the manifesto, and this is the part that we are looking you to collaborate to collaborate it, to contribute it with the book. It's about 100 pages. You can see that this is the bigger part of the manifesto, and the idea is that we can collect it, contributions for the SIG members. Finally, we have the end. Olivia, we can change for the other slides. Okay, the part 4 is in fact the conclusion. It was just 3 pages that we used to finalize the book. It was me and Olivia that we write this, and the idea is to offer a kind of synthesis where we can try to see what was the route for the future-oriented science education. What it means that what is the map road that we have presented, and what was maybe the direction that we have to see. And finally, Manifesto, it's a living and evolving tool for global science education. And the idea is to try to start a kind of continuation for the Manifesto, because the Manifesto it's a cut in the process. It was this idea to offer a political statement, but the idea is that as you starting to follow this map route, we imagine that things will change, and you have to open a kind of a dialogue, an ongoing dialogue and action for the future. Finally, we think that it is important to add 2 appendices. One with all the people that was in the process of ESERA SIG8 group that give us inputs, participated in the process. And finally, the Appendix B is a kind of glossary of key concepts that was important for someone that's a little bit far from the discussion about the future-oriented science education. I think I'm done. I can open for questions, and maybe if you are doubts about the process, but this is the structure of the book that we have taught.
Thank you, Mauricio. Maybe we can finish and we can complete the presentation of the book clearly with this description of section 3, the call for chapters.
Yes, perfect.
That Bonnion can introduce, because this is the main goal of the meeting of today, just to introduce you where we are and to make this statement, this call.
Thanks, Olivia. Can I begin?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Olivia and Mauricio, for sort of giving an outline of the entire project as well as the book project more specifically. So, and also thanks, Olivia, for saying that my bit is the most important part of today's event. So. Right, so I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about the specific section where we'll be inviting the contribution. Although the whole project and the entire book was co-creation from the ESERA SIG8 community, this section, this part is specifically where we'll be inviting written contributions from the community, and we'd like to make this truly collaborative thinking process. So the purpose of this section is to really illustrate what a future-oriented science education might look like in practice. So we entitled this as FOSS Manifesto in Practice. So we interpret the term practice in the broader sense. So it doesn't have to be necessarily, it can include, but it's not limited to the classroom practice, because FOSS is not only about how things are done at the classroom level. It can include the meso level and macro level issues in science education, such as policy and school organization, etc. So we want to use this section to illustrate what future-oriented science education might look like with concrete and short, brief examples. So. So it says contributions may include, for example, classroom-based instructional illustrations, curriculum standards and policy analysis, and critical reflections on teaching resources and professional practices in your own context. So we do not expect people to be designing a new research study based on the future-oriented science education manifesto that we talked about today, because there's no time to do that. That's probably for another follow-up project, because you will need time to do ethics application and collect data, analyze that. We are not expecting people to be doing that for this call. What we do want to, what we also don't, in the meantime, want people to be doing is to write a purely imaginative, imaginary piece about what it might look like. So we want to keep this as evidence grounded and illustrative, really, of what happens in the classroom and what happens at the sort of meso and macro level science education practice and policy. So what we do want to sort of have for these chapters is sort of reinterpretation of existing projects and empirical evidence. So some of the projects that you've done before or you're working on at the moment, and then reflect on this, what you have from the perspective of future-oriented science education that we talked about today, including the 4 spectra of things and 4 different considerations. And we can reflect on our current practices that sort of illustrate some of these tensions and some of these contradictions and that we talk about in the FOSS manifesto. Or you could also think about how this manifesto might help us make progress with regard to some of these issues that were identified, or at least think about the problem in a different way. So there's the link to the call. Call is now live, and we ask people to submit a 300-word synopsis. There's the link here, which I believe we'll be promoting through ESERA mailing list and other ways very soon, just to reach the people who were not able to join this particular meeting today. And if you could move to the next slide. So this is, thank you. This is our timeline, the timeline that we have in mind. So by the end of February, we invite 200-word extended abstract. So there's more detailed instruction about what to include in the call that you saw in the previous slide. And we'll take about, yes, if somebody could just copy the links to the chat, that would be great. So selection of the contributions, we'll do that we aim to do that within a month's time. And the full chapter will be about 2,000 words long, including everything. So we don't want this to have 20, 30 references, because this will be primarily evidence-informed and based on empirical evidence that you've got, and some reflections in the light of the FOSS manifesto. So doesn't have to have a very long literature review section or anything. So and manuscripts submission deadline, I think this was covered already. So we'll do some review process, but given the length of this, we don't expect this to be as long as the usual journal peer review process. It will be a bit abbreviated than that. So we are hoping to include chapters from as many contexts as possible. It could be from anywhere in the world, not just limited to Europe, but also different approaches to, because we acknowledge that there will be different approaches that are suitable to implement the FOSS manifesto in different your own context, because we don't work in the same constraints and same possibilities about science education. And also we invite chapters and reflections from various stages and contexts of education within your own country. For example, if you're working in earlier science education, if you're working in higher education, STEM education context, that's also fine. But also if you're working in informal education, how this might be implemented and inform informal education out of school context. So that would be also great. So we will, in selecting the 10 to 12 chapters to be included, we'll be mindful of ensuring diversity in that context. So I think that's what I have. Did I miss anything, Olivia?
No, thank you very much. Now we will leave some space to questions, and we will share the links and stuff. I just closed by saying that in the next step, in order to also to support the writing process and to support this collective further step, we will organize a sort of online collection of further comments and feedback on the manifesto in order to have this living document. But also we will organize 3 meetings from March to May in order to activate a collective discussion on Statement A, and then on Statement B, that were the new one. So we didn't have so far a collective conversation on them. And also we would love to have a workshop in May on the manifesto implementations and the practices in order to also to share ideas about what is happening now. So now I stop sharing because maybe I think we can leave some space for comments and for. I hope it is clear the idea that this manifesto and this process of also collecting chapters is supposed to activate a reflective attitude, a reflection on what is happening in order to think about, to use the manifesto as a lens to think and to reflect collectively. Thank you very much, Wonyong. Maybe we can, okay, link to the call is here, perfect. We will share, however, the link. We will use the same mailing list in order to send you the link. But questions, comments about the process?
Could I ask a question? So I'm not sending a chapter, but I just wondered. I mean, apart from the truth chapter, is the expectation to have correspondence to the different statements so that people are actually sort of looking into, sort of tapping into the statements so that they can, so the book can be cross-referenced across the different chapters? So if let's say I'm going to suggest a chapter, should I sort of zoom in on a statement or two, and make a specific link to those statements somehow?
Even, yeah, that would be, I think this is open to the discussion, but I think it would be nice to make the reference to the statements of manifesto and to argue in what sense this reflective practice is an implementation of the manifesto. I would not suggest only one or two, because it's the overall structure of the manifesto that I think is important, and the different dimensions. So the reference, the link to the manifesto, the statements is important, but I would try to make, to suggest a sort of articulated thinking on the, if possible.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's a very good question, and if you think that manifesto is a kind of lenses to reevaluate it, to rethinking the things that we have normally done in science education, the expectation is that the practical suggestion is kind of a negotiation between these statements. Like Olivia said, it's not mandatory that you just chose one of them, but the idea is you propose a kind of practices, and maybe in the defense and the articulation about the proposition, you can use arguments that are inside the manifesto and the statements in the manifesto. The idea is that the practical dimension, the part C, it's a kind of dialogue from the part 1 and 2, in the sense of this roading map. What can you make different from now to the future? It means that as you have agree with this kind of argumentation, that you have to change some aspect of science education, I think the processes, it's a kind of an exercise to think about the old processes in the direction to the new ones. I think this is the most interesting part of the book, is because it's when we spread the ideas and you capture the ideas and you try to coming back to your experience as an educator, and you bring him back the propositions that can fit with the idea of the manifesto. We are really looking to see what you are bringing to us.
Can I just say, for the purpose of organization in the submission form, we do ask people to choose one primary dimension of the manifesto that they think their case study is concerned with. So this is to ensure that we end up not having case studies that address one or two aspects of the manifesto without addressing the rest. And also, given that these are quite short contributions, 2,000 words, so you'll first need to describe the case itself and then reflect on some aspects of the manifesto. So if you try to address all four of the manifesto, it might not be enough space to do that. That's another reason. So for the purpose of that, the proposal and call, we did ask people to choose, but obviously this is subject to change unless somebody decides to submit an abstract within the next hour or so. But I'm also aware that people might be, all of those four statements are very interlinked.
And in reaction, do you think does it make sense? Do you think that the idea of these chapters and this form of the chapters is reasonable? Do you feel inspired in some sense? Because we didn't want, I mean, this is a book, so we didn't want to have an article form. It's another stuff. It's another kind of reflection. Do you feel inspired? Do you feel do you expect something different?
Or if anybody has an idea for a potential case study chapter and would like to share that and discuss if that would make a good case study, you're welcome to do so.
I'm talking too much, but I'm gonna stop after this one. I mean, clearly I'm inspired, so I'm talking a lot. But there was just one other thing. So, are the chapters meant to be only case studies related to the statements and the manifesto in ways that work? Or can they be things that just utterly failed to achieve those things? And so here are the ways in which this doesn't work. I mean, are they meant to be like exemplary aspects of this, or could it be like, we've tried this and these were the challenges and it just failed miserably?
Wonderful. To establish
my position on that would be to include the latter as well. Like, this just didn't work. We've done this and it didn't work. We couldn't get from truth to fitness to purpose because whatever.
Nice.
But I mean, I'm just putting that on the table.
Wow.
I agree, because the idea is to use the dimensions and the statements as a frame. So however you use them, it does, I mean, whatever the outcome is doesn't matter. It's how they were used and conceptualized. And I think whether it's a positive or negative ending to the story, it's still instructive. And I would hope that there would be like some positive outcome of knowing how to do it better, or how to maybe effect a change in the manifesto itself, right? Because it's a living document, it shouldn't be static. And so it's in a way testing the limits of it, what it can do or cannot do. But I'm very inspired as well.
I think what, generally speaking, what a framework does is to let us see things in a different way. So when I say seeing things in a different way, so that lets us see some gaps in what we have been doing already, whether that's positive or negative, and what we are not doing. That's what a framework also allows us to see. So I think in that sense, as I mentioned, you can do something around analyzing the existing curriculum policy and existing materials, etc. So you can see, obviously, there will be some aspects of the manifesto that they will be addressing and they will have potential to address, but not fully sort of implemented. And there might be some gaps that the existing materials and resources haven't even thought about. So those things, I think they really sort of are in resonance with what you said, Sibel.
No, we really hope to have a lot of contribution, a lot of possible contribution. We will try to publish all the contribution we are able to do in the limit of space that Springer give us, also to think and to reshape. But in any case, we were thinking that this is a collective conversation that, however, can have other outputs. With Mauricio, we were thinking that, for example, we can find a way also to present these different case studies and this in the next ESERA conference, because actually the book will be presented in the next ESERA conference. So the timeline is completely aligned in order to have the book published for the ESERA, for the next ESERA conference. And also in that case, it would be nice to, we can think of organizing a symposium or an interactive poster session or something like that in order to present, however, all the contribution that have been presented here. So the book is not only one venue for this possible outcomes, but it's it's one of. Okay, time is over. We will share with you the link with the link to the call for chapters and the form. Please save the date, save the deadline in order to send this. And any questions you can write to us. Won Young will be the person who will in charge to edit and to organize this process of But all questions, any questions, we are here. Okay?
Yes. Thank you very much to be here with us, and we hope you have very good propositions for the part C.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much for everything.